Hi, learners. It's Mark again, and today I'm here with my friend Kat. How you doing today, Kat?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
I'm having a real good day. Things have been well here for me. My understanding is my friend Kat has a PhD in psychology, and she's going to talk to us about our mental health and keeping our noggin in one place during all the stresses that come from coronavirus. Is that right?
That is absolutely true. And there's a lot to this subject, but there's also a lot that can be done. So hopefully we can make some progress that'll help somebody today.
Make me feel educated, Kat. Tell me what you have to say.
Sure. So the first thing that I just want to acknowledge is that no one is immune from stress. Stress doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care how much money you make. It doesn't care how rich you are, how poor you are, what gender you are. It doesn't care. Stress affects everybody. So there is not a single person out there that is somehow not good at handling stress, because everyone is not good at handling stress. It's because we are human. So that's where I want to start today. It's just by saying it's okay if you're stressed. Everyone is. And then let's go from there and figure out what we can do about it.
Whether you've been someplace alone, whether you've been trapped in an apartment with your kids, whether
Yep.
you've been trapped in an apartment without your kids, no matter what's going on, we're all getting a bit of stress from this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to this pandemic. First of all, we're terrified that we could get sick. We hear all these horror stories about people dying in respirators and being isolated in a hospital and losing our sense of smell. And okay, if that wasn't scary enough, this year alone, we've also had murder hornets. I think something like a squirrel or something who had the bubonic plague. I
Yep.
mean, oh my God, can this world be any crazier at the moment? And then you add to the fact that the economy has taken a tank. Now, some of that we can discuss later in a different talk about government handling things, but some of it is just because people can't work when there's basically a worldwide pandemic, right? We can't be interacting. We're specifically being told to social distance. So a lot of us can't go to work. Our kids can't go to school. And so now you've had all this extra pressure of, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? Or if you didn't even have a job to begin with, how am I going to look for a job in the middle of a pandemic? So there's just a lot of stress going on, which is why I'm saying no one's exempt. Everybody's going to feel at least something, if not a lot of something.
And it seems to me the more stress a person's carrying around, the more willing they seem to take on a little more. If we
Yeah.
have stress, it helps us find more.
For some reason that's true. It's almost like we get into this cycle of, instead of being able to get rid of it, we almost want to collect more of it. Want is maybe too strong of a word, but that's definitely what we do. And there's some biology behind that. So one of the things that I wanted to get across to your learners today is a little bit of what's actually happening in your body. And that's why some of the things that I'm going to tell you in a minute work to reduce a little bit of the stress. So what's happening in your body is this: you have a system that responds when something is scary and frightening. We call that just your stress response system. We're not very creative when we name things. But what happens is this: whenever you're stressed, and it can be anything, it can be something real or imagined, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But let's say there's a big scary dog in my yard that's growling at me and I'm worried that it's going to bite me, right? My body is going to get me ready to defend myself, either to fight that dog or to run away and get away. And what it's going to do is it's going to, my nervous system itself is going to cause the rest of my body to release a bunch of hormones. Now, one of those you're probably familiar with. That's adrenaline. Everybody knows what a good adrenaline rush feels like, right? Your heart beats real fast. You get really kind of jittery. That's good. That's on purpose. That's because if I need that quick energy to run away from that big scary dog, I'm going to have it. My body's going to make sure I'm ready. But the second hormone that's released is something called cortisol, and that's the one not as many people are as familiar with. Cortisol is a good hormone. We want it to be there because it helps us with stressors that last a little bit longer. It keeps our bodies energized for stresses that don't go away right away. So as soon as I get away from that dog, the situation is over, I can calm back down. And you also have a whole different system of your nervous system that calms you back down, thank goodness. But again, like the COVID-19 virus, it's not going anywhere. We're having to deal with the stressor day after day after day after day. And that's where that second hormone comes in and helps keep us prepared so that we continually have energy to handle the crisis, the situation, whatever it is that's causing us stress. Now, I told you earlier, stress can be real or imagined. COVID-19 is real. But in one sense, if you don't actually have it, right, it's not real for you. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't cause the exact same stress response in your body as if it was real. So stressors can be real or potentially things that could be real. That's what we say by imagined stresses. So
So
again, both are important.
instead of sympathetic and parasympathetic responses, we're getting stressed and we're just staying there. And that's what
Absolutely.
makes our beards go gray, right?
Yeah, check you out for using those words. Yes. So those two hormones that I mentioned, those are released thanks to your sympathetic nervous system. I said fantastic use of words. I can tell you've had some biology in your life. Yeah, that's the system that you need. You need it, right? And think about it. We don't want to go through life with no stress, right? When's the last time you had a job interview, Mark?
About 4 months ago.
Okay. When you went to that job interview, were you a little bit nervous?
Oh, yeah, I was very nervous.
Right, but that's okay. That was a good thing because it probably helped you pay attention. It probably helped you make good eye contact, hold your body the way you wanted to hold yourself so that you answered questions and you got a good job in your job interview, correct?
I hope so. It was for this job.
Well, hi, you must have done well, right? Because I'm assuming not only are you awesome, but you probably had a great job interview.
It may have been that nobody else wanted the job.
No, let's not go with that. Let's go with you're awesome. That's much more realistic. But at the end of your interview, you didn't want to stay that way all day. So that's where parasympathetic system came down and helped calm you down. So not all stress is bad. But the problem is when there's stress that we can't get rid of or that lasts a long, long time. And that's where we are right now with job loss, with the COVID-19 virus, with quarantine, with not being able to do what we would normally do. And the problem with long-term stress and long-term hormone release is that it starts to take a toll on our body, particularly our immune system. One of the things that it does is it actually decreases your immune system's ability to function the way it should function, which is a crazy catch-22, right? When the thing we're worried about is a virus, and what stress about the virus is doing is making us less able to handle whenever we might get sick. Isn't that kind of weird?
It's very unfortunate. The problem causes a problem, which causes a problem, which causes the problem.
Yeah. So
Just
what
like
do we do, right? So that's what everybody wants to know. What in the heck do we do? Okay, first thing we need to do is something to get that parasympathetic system activated so those hormones I told you about come down. Because if you can get those hormones down even a little bit, even if the stressor doesn't go away, the immune system starts to recover and it goes back up. And that's really what's key. So first thing you need to do is to find some sense of control, right? Okay. Again, that's hard to do because you can't control the virus. You can't always control if you're unemployed. You can't always control the fact that we're not supposed to go and see anybody. But there are little things that you can control in your everyday life. And believe it or not, even those little things can bring down those hormones a good bit. So one of the big things that I suggest to everybody is get yourself on a daily schedule, a daily routine. It doesn't have to be super strict, doesn't have to be super fancy, but even something like that, because you can choose when you do certain things throughout the day. You can choose a time you want to get up in the morning. You can choose a time you want to do a specific chore. If you have children around, you can choose a time when they can watch TV. You can choose a time when you want them to read a book. You can choose a time when you want to do a family activity. I know, for example, you do all sorts of phenomenal art things. You could set a time even within your studio, like from this time to this time, I'm going to work on this project, and then I'm going to take a break, and this time to this time, I'm going to work on this project. Again,
I do exactly that.
Which is great, and that's actually a perfect thing you should do, because again, those are things you can control. So even though there's things you can't, by focusing on the things you can control, you can start to bring that stress level down just a little bit. So that's the first thing you can do. All right.
This reminds me, I go every day to my garden at the same time, so I have control of that. And I know all of our learners are able to show up for class at the same time every week. And that regularity I find comforting.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives us something to look forward to, right? Like you look forward to getting up in the morning and going to see what's new in the garden. I know when I teach, I look forward to going to class, and I'm sure my students are the same way, as are yours. So yeah, definitely something that's important. Right. Second thing that's important to do is exercise, but specifically aerobic exercise, right? All right, you seem to know a lot, so I'm going to ask you a question now. I'm going to flip the interview. All right, when you're stressed, you told me that you knew your sympathetic nervous system was getting you ready, right? And it was releasing all those hormones. Why do you think exercise helps?
Well, I think maybe it's there so I'm prepared to, as they say, fight or flight. And
Yeah,
if I use up all that fight energy, I can
yeah,
come back down to where I have what I like to call hammock energy, where we
genius.
can just lay around for a little while.
Genius. See, you don't even need me. You got this, Mark. But yeah, that's exactly right. Your body is ready to fight something, but you can't physically go out and fight the coronavirus. It just doesn't work that way. But
Yep.
if you can get your body to use up some of that energy, right, it's automatically going to cause that other system to come on board saying, okay, she fought it off, calm her back down, and it will calm you back down. So, my three favorite exercises that anybody can do from anywhere. The first one is just taking a walk. 10
Yep.
minutes or less, get that heart rate up just a little bit, right? You don't want to be super winded, but you want to get that heart rate up just a little bit. And I suggest taking a walk somewhere pretty. All right, go to a park where there's not many people and there's flowers. Go in your own yard where you've got a garden and walk around. Just doing a quick little walk every single day, 5 or 10 minutes is going to be great. If you can do it even more than that, even better. All right, again, the point is to use up some of that energy. The second one is stairs, because most everybody has a set of stairs somewhere near their house, if not even just 3 stairs at the front of the house, right? It's going to seem weird, but I want you just to go up and down those stairs, all right, 20 times, all right? It's
Yeah.
going to feel winded at first. And if you can't do all 20, that's okay. Start with 5, then do 10, then do 15, right? But again, you're using up the energy, and it's great because you're working up some muscles in your legs, which is going to have kind of a double bonus. And then my third favorite exercise is actually something that some people don't even consider exercise, but it totally is, which is some sort of yoga, right? Or Pilates or something like that. And the reason I say that's another good one is because there, especially due to the pandemic, are a ton of free resources out there. Just go and YouTube yoga classes and you can find some of all different levels. What's great about yoga is it's specific, I can't speak today. It is specific. There's what I'm trying to say. It is specific forms of stretching, of moving, of bending, right? That purposefully moves your muscles in such a way to where they think they're working real hard, even if they're not.
Right.
And it still brings that stress level down. So again, super simple, free, all 3 of those, which is always a bonus. Now, if you have luxuries and you have some ability to do something that's not free, swimming is also an excellent exercise. But again, during the pandemic, I don't recommend going somewhere like a public pool just because we want to keep our distance. But once this is over and you want a stress reliever, swimming is also really, really good. Even just walking in the water is a really good exercise. So we can save that one for when we don't have to social distance.
All right. And the other I like to lean on is whatever your form of meditation is. For some people, it's prayer. For me, it's the repetition of artwork. I think we all have a form of meditation to sort of center ourselves. And if we don't, we need to work on finding one, right?
As I said, you beat me to it. That was going to be my final thing that I was going to say is the thing that we need to do to reduce our stress. New studies in psychology, and by new, I mean the last 5 years, right, have shown that spirituality, whatever that looks like for you, can be a specific religion, it can be prayer, it can be meditation. Again, in your case, you said art feels very spiritual to you, right? Any of that, right, can reduce the stress level. So again, the thing that you need to find is something that brings you inner comfort. Again, it can be anything. It can be reading a book. It can be petting, your cats. Actually, a second really cool study, completely unrelated but related, the purring of a cat, right? That rhythmic motion actually induces your parasympathetic nervous system and makes you feel less stressed.
Really?
So,
I hadn't heard that.
Yep. It's a really cool new thing that came out about 2 years ago. Yeah, they actually showed that the cat purr sound is really good for that. But again, anything
Pumpkin Pie is always ready to purr for us.
There she goes. Right? I bet you could even rent her out.
Probably so. She loves everybody.
I have one that would love everyone and one that's terrified of everyone. So I have a 50-50 mix.
Same in my household.
But again, that's all you got to do is find something that's good for you. Again, if it's prayer, if it's a specific religious affiliation, that is just as good as if you're not religious at all and you find something else that just helps you reflect. There's also a lot of free resources out there about meditation. Again, just do a YouTube search for meditation examples, and you will find a lot of free things out there. So again, if you already don't have something, you can go and look for something that might work for you. And if the first one doesn't, no big deal. You've just got to find something that does work for you. So as I said, you didn't even need me today, Mark. You could have done this.
I can't pronounce all the words. I always need help. So we're going to do some exercise.
Yep.
We're going to pray or meditate.
Yep.
Anything else?
And you're going to try your best to socialize a little bit.
Try our best. I like to call my father in Ohio because he always has bad jokes for me.
Yes. And laughing is actually an extra bonus. If you can find somebody that you can laugh with, even if you're laughing about things that are absolutely silly, corny, that always works. But yes, now this is one of those another catch-22, right? Because we've been told not to go socialize, right?
Right.
This means we need to be creative. This is socializing. I actually feel a lot better after having a conversation with you today, even though that wasn't at all the purpose of what we did this for, right? We're actually trying to educate, but we're healing at the same time.
I got to be honest. I came hoping you'd make me feel better, and you did.
I said bonus, win-win. But yes, so just get a little creative with your socializing. Again, things like this online where you can physically see each other, calling someone, texting someone, even or not, can feel like socialization. And while you're socializing, be brave enough to admit that you're stressed out. So be brave enough to say, you know what, Mark? It's starting to get to me. I'm starting to feel really, really stressed. And even just saying that out loud, even if you can't fix it for me, Mark, which you probably can't, just me saying it to you actually makes me feel a lot better, because probably what you're going to say back is, yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. We've had this conversation out of this. In the real world, Kat and I are very much friends, and we've been holding each other up for a while now. Why don't you tell folks where you teach, Kat?
Sure. So I teach at this small public university called Winthrop University. It is right south of Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you go Charlotte, North Carolina, and cross over into South Carolina to a city called Rock Hill, you will find Winthrop University. It is wonderful. It is from my hometown, so I'm back finally in my hometown, which is also really nice to be back in my stomping grounds. It's a small university, but we have a lot of stuff going on, which is a whole lot of fun.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate you joining us today. And maybe you can come back and talk to us when we have some other problem we have to deal with.
Hey, anything you need. As I said, my background is in psychology. My PhD specifically is in neuroscience. So what I do is I study the underlying biology behind the stuff that happens in our nervous system. So anytime you want to geek out with me, I would love to have a conversation.
You know I like to geek out every time I can. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Kat.
You are so welcome, and we will be in touch.
Be well.
You too.